and there is a leadership team which will have to be selected, e-leaders, as you can see on that Startup Club page also in your LearnWise. So there will be a shortlisting and interviews will be done based on the responses which you give. There are only two very simple questions for you to answer, and then the rest of things can be taken up in the interview, in which the entrepreneurship committee members of the department will be there. So that will be the activity after that. So after Zishan's presentation, if you have any queries related to Startup Club, you may ask those queries, and then we will continue with the class. All right. Welcome, Zishan. Welcome to this session, and now over to you. You can take over.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So today I'll be just giving a brief about the Startup Club. So this, as you can see the screen, the name is Fmsr Startup Club. Just a second. Okay. So when you look at the list of the companies, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Walmart, these are what all these companies have in common. Like all these are big tech companies, and these are the companies who changed the face of the world. Like they disrupted markets when they entered, when they came into existence. So aside from being some of America's most successful brands, their founders were all like between the ages of 20 and 26. They were all college-aged entrepreneurs. And when you go into their history, they all started somehow their ideas started taking place. You will find the roots in their college life. They met their either with their roommates. They started, or either some of their college mates or seniors. There are some also took the help of their professors to start their companies. So that's why it is a very important age group to target for startups. So about Fmsr Startup Club, it is the entrepreneurial cell of the Faculty of Management Studies and Research. So the main aim of what we do is that we regularly conduct programs, discussion, and run forums on entrepreneurship. And we try to help the students to see entrepreneurship as a real career option, and not something just as an activity to as a pastime activity, but something that they can base their career on. And and it is a part of professional skill assessment. So you will also be rated on the activity that you take up. Okay, so I think the first year it is a two credit paper, and in the second year it is a 4 credit paper. So if you perform well in the club or in any committee, it will also reflect on your mark sheets. The main aim of professional skill assessment that we have been told is it provides a professional setup. Okay, and we can apply our managerial and entrepreneurial skills. Now, what we are learning in this class itself, ESD, or in the other classes, we can apply those skills. It gives us an opportunity to work in diverse teams, and even in case of when you appear in interviews, you will be able to showcase the interviewers that you have led and created campaigns. Okay, how it develops problem solving skills. Startup Club is supported by the Wadhwani Foundation. So you all are already aware of the Wadhwani Foundation. They take up activities which support entrepreneurship worldwide, and in India they have a national entrepreneurship network through which the Startup Club is supported. And their executives are regularly in touch with the Startup Club team. So whatever help one may need once the Startup Club activities start, Wadhwani Foundation is there to provide support. And the main objectives of the Startup Club is there are threefold objectives. Firstly, the creating awareness around entrepreneurship in the campus. Secondly, entrepreneurship education. And thirdly, supporting and incubating new ideas, which is venture creation. I'll just brief a little about each of these three. That firstly, we have to create in the Startup Club, we have to create awareness around entrepreneurship in the campus. We are in MBA course, we know everything about it. But other courses, they are not much aware about how they can take up entrepreneurship as a career. they only see that there is civil services and other teaching as a career objective, or some government jobs, but they do not see entrepreneurship as a real career option in the 21st century. But we all know how startups are booming and how college age entrepreneurs are changing the world. So we have to firstly take up events which will draw eyeballs to the startup club, so they know that there is a startup club in the campus, and they can come up with their ideas for the support. Secondly is entrepreneurship education, like what you are learning in the ESD course right now. You can lot other people, they do not have that kind of privilege. They do not know much about entrepreneurship. Like if they have any business idea, they don't know where to start. They might not be aware about lean canvas and other some technical stuff which they will require, how to pitch to an investor. So you will be required to provide support to the startup club, to the students, how can they create a pitch deck, and if how to approach an investor, what is the difference between a full-fledged pitch and like an elevator pitch. So these are all this all comes in part of the entrepreneurship education. You can once the startup club is formed, you can the new team is formed, you can take up regular forums for the students in this part. And finally, the main aim is that venture creation. You have to help the students to apply these learnings and take up their ideas and help them in creating real ventures, which they can register, and they can really go to the market with this venture. The activities that we have done so far, these are on the left hand side, you can see the offline activities that we had planned, but due to the pandemic, we had to shift completely to the online mode. We had planned an hall series that in every hall of AMU we will go and visit and have a 1.5 hour program about entrepreneurship and the startup club. We will invite a particular successful entrepreneur from Aligarh or around our AMU alumnus, who will motivate the students of that hall or that residents of that hall to take entrepreneurship. We had also planned a department series and e-summit, which can be taken up in the following year by yourselves also. And we had also planned regular entrepreneurship forums and webinars, which we took because of the pandemic. Now, our top programs of the year were Social Entrepreneurship Webinar Series. It was a 3-day entrepreneurship webinar series, which was really successful. We got registrations from outside AMU also, like there were registrations from DU and other colleges also. We had a screening of documentary on iPhone in the campus. We had an interview of Dr. Frank F. Islam, and we had also organized VPitch as a part of the eCell. So these are some of the snapshots of these events, like VPitch Aligarh. In the bottom left corner, you can see the screening of documentary of iPhone. In the top right corner, you can see the Social Entrepreneurship Webinar Series. And in the bottom right corner, you can see when we visited the Wadhwani Foundation in Delhi. We went there for the how we can take up the startup club, how we can, they trained us on running the startup club basically. And so this is all the contact information. We are also on social media. We have more than 700 followers on LinkedIn, more than 250 followers on Instagram and Facebook. So kindly follow us there. And obviously you can connect, and if you have any query, you can reach out to me. Okay, so that's all I think. One more thing I would like to share, that why join Startup Club. Basically, if you are looking to seriously to get into entrepreneurship, if you want to launch your own startup club is the best club that you best committee that you can join in the department, because it gives you an opportunity to also network with entrepreneurs. Like through the startup club, I had a chance to interact with the startup clubs of various other colleges. Once a startup club of a college of DU connected with me to sort of look into some sort of collaboration. So you get a lot of networking opportunity with other entrepreneurs. You know how things are working in the market. So if you're looking for launch your own startup, so Startup Club is the best committee that you can join. And even if you don't want to pursue your own startup, then also Startup Club will provide you with practical experience. Like it is one of the most active club in the department. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Zishan. Thank you for a wonderful introduction and a presentation on Startup Club. Now, if there are any queries related to anything which is coming to your mind regarding Startup Club, I would request you to speak and like we can have a open discussion, and Zishan would like to answer that.
Sir, can we take part in two committees at the same time? Like I'm already the part of personality development committee. So can I be a part, also take part in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think this question we discussed previously also among the faculty members. So one is that there is a primary committee and the other is a secondary committee. So like for example, people have more than one interest. So they can join multiple committee, but one committee will be the primary committee on which evaluation will take place. Okay. On the secondary committee, it is your interest. So for example, there are many people, and last year I remember there were people who had a primary interest in starting up something of their own. So their primary committee was startup, this ESL, entrepreneurship committee, but they had also flair for writing. So they joined that literary e-magazine and all that committee also. So then there were people who were also interested in social work. So there is a committee called Community Outreach Committee. So there were people who had Startup Club primary and then something secondary. So likewise, you can have you can satisfy your multiple interests, but for the evaluation purpose, there will be one committee. Yes, any other question?
For us, sir, I believe the orientation program has not yet been done for this batch.
No.
Oh, that's why they are not, having a clear idea of what committees they need to join and all. So there are, as rightly said for us, sir, there are many committees that you can join. That is for your own development as well, your career development as well. And you can join two committees at a time. One is primary, second is secondary. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19 and the situations that we are in right now, we are not able to have an orientation program with you guys so that we could make you understand the importance and of these committees. Anyways, Startup Club has always been a welcome addition to this committees. I believe from the last year, Zishan has taken it from to greater heights. And I believe there's a lot of opportunity for you guys also to explore and to meet people from other universities, entrepreneurs, etc. So I believe they should go give it a try, and you should just get attached to this Startup Club in any way possible.
Like it is said that birds of a feather flock together. Okay, so when there are people who have similar interests, the best way to basically satisfy the interest is to form a club and all. And the examples of football clubs like Barcelona and all started like this. So when people interested in one activity, they came together and they started. And today it's so Startup Club is basically that hub where you, even if say like in ESD, you are having practice ventures. So you are part of one practice venture. So you have a couple of friends who are there. What happens is that you get the opportunity to interact with a lot of other people. Okay, and despite whatever their idea is, so it's not that at this stage what is more important, it's exploration and iterations and all these things. So in that way, when you talk to people, when you interact with similar minds, when you people who are doing similar things, so you get a lot of different ideas and you get confidence also on that account. That's what Zishan was trying to explain, that you have a lot of networking opportunities. And I'm not demeaning any other club here, but this Startup Club supported by Vadhwani Foundation, it's one of the most structured clubs or things you will find. Okay, so it has a lot of material for you. It has ready-made a lot of things for you, and a lot of outside exposure is also there. So all of these things are part of this club. So there are a lot of benefits.
Sir, Fmsr club is based on which activity, can you explain?
What?
Sir, Fmsr club is based on which activity, which field, means which particular field it work for? finance or management, or for which?
I'm not able to understand. What is
Actually, sir, I don't know what is FMSR club.
FMSR means Faculty of Management Studies and Research.
Yes, sir, I have Googled it. But
Startup Club. So
Yes,
Startup
sir.
Club is about, it's a club where we talk about ideas, where we talk about promoting entrepreneurship in the campus. One of the objectives is to promote entrepreneurship in the campus among the students, among other faculties also. Okay, so it's not just limited to your own department and faculty. It is like you become a hub where you invite, say, for example, people from biotechnology, engineering, arts, and all for different activities. So that's why activities like hall series and department series was announced by Zishan last year. And so these are activities which are open to the whole campus. So you become the hub of that, and you manage the events. And there is a leadership team in Startup Club which have basically all the functions. There is a CEO, there is a finance manager, there is a HR manager, there is a operations manager, marketing manager. So all of these people are there, where you will, once you are part of the core team and you give the interviews, so there will be some roles which will be assigned to you, and then you can manage those things on your own. How to promote an event. So that's basically the job of a marketing manager. So all of these things, how to manage the finances, whether there has to be, every event requires some finances, how to arrange those finances, or how to basically spend that money, and all these things are there. So you do practically everything. Yes, there was one hand up.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
So, as you said that there are different roles assigned to the members, like the operations manager. So, does the startup club work on some kind of venture, or on what basis are these roles assigned?
These roles are assigned for managing a startup club. Okay, there is a CEO of a startup club. Startup club, you have to think it like a company. Okay, it's a startup in itself. You can think of it. Okay, so like in a startup, there are different activities which you do. So here, your product is basically the activities and the events which you are going to sell. Okay, your objectives will be to promote entrepreneurship, to get more enrollments, to promote your startup club. So there will be marketing manager, like Zishan said, there are a lot of Instagram pages are there, LinkedIn pages there, and Facebook is there. So these people keep on engaging with the community. You build a community, you promote your startup club. So that is marketing. Okay. Once, say, for example, you organize an event. So there is an event, uski puri planning hoti hai. So then it requires finances, it requires operations. How do you conduct that event? Okay, all that becomes part of that startup. So there is a leadership team which looks after the different aspects of that. So once you submit your interests, and the way you have, I have sent you a Google link. On that, you submit your interest. Based on that, there will be shortlisting of people, and there will be people who will be called for interviews, and you will be assigned different roles in the startup club. So then you can take it forward from there. Is it clear, Subhya?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Bilal.
Sir, actually, what I feel is that we guys are not accustomed to do the activism or the technical or the legal expertise which is required in order to establish a company or organization. So, are we going to get an idea about all those stuff in this?
That is part of your ESG course also.
Okay.
That is part of your ESG course also. The legal requirements and all. And once we have our incubation center, we will have a CA on call, basically. So CA and lawyer on call. So if you need help on that account, that can be arranged. If any startup reaches to that level where they are on the verge of establishing themselves, so we will definitely help them.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Any other question?
So, sir, I would like to inform about the Startup Club WhatsApp broadcast group.
Okay.
So, if you guys can join the primary core group of the startup club functioning group or not, but you should definitely join the broadcast group. I have shared the link with Faraz. He will share. He can share it with your class. Basically, we share news stories and various resources and updates about startups and what is going into the in the entrepreneurship field regularly on that broadcast group. You all can join that and also follow us on the social medias on various social media sites. I'll share the link with Faraz later on.
All right. So thank you very much, Ishan, for your time. I think we got an idea, very good idea about Startup Club, and I hope that many people, many sincere with the people who are sincerely thinking in this direction will turn up and submit their nominations and applications for Startup Club, and we will need you in the future also for guidance, and hopefully we'll call you again. And so because right now when you go to the Startup Club page, you will find the old team there, Zishan and all. So once we have the nominations, and they will be handing over the reins to the new team. Okay. So thank you, Zishan, for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Zishan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I shall leave now.
Yes, you can.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So I hope that this small presentation can clarify your doubts, and you people join the Startup Club on that. So now moving ahead to the class. Till now, what we have covered in ESD, there is milestone 1 presentation. Right now, I got the news that majority of the people have submitted milestone 1, except for few, and they will be contacted by Vadvani Foundation for their missing of this deadline of milestone 1, and we'll take care of that. But right now, let us focus on what we have covered so far and what we are to go forward. So till now, what we have covered the problem, that we have identified a problem. Then we have identified the customer segments for which we are solving that problem, and the solution part also we have covered. In this, we also learned about a tool called Value Proposition Canvas. It's a very nice tool. And last time we discussed a lot of things about that, and we thought that you devote some time on that, and you match basically the customer segment side with the value proposition which you are proposing, and assess the fit. If there is a fit, then you are on the right track. Now, once, say for example, you have done this much, the next is to figure out how is your business, how will your business be organized? Okay. So in that respect, what we are going to do, we are going to understand about a concept called business model. And it is slightly different from, we have heard about a concept called business plan, and business model is different from a business plan. Business plan is more of a snapshot. Okay. It comes before business plan. Business plan is basically a detailed one. And in very short sentence, if I have to make you understand what a business plan is, so it is basically a one-page picture or a one-page document which can give you an overview that how you are going to make money or how you are going to organize your business. Okay. So we are going to today study about business plan or business model and how we should create a business model. So there is a tool which is called Lean Canvas. Okay. There are many tools out there to make business models, but we will use a tool called Lean Canvas, which is developed by one very startup consultant in Silicon Valley by the name of Ash Maurya. And he has written this book called Lean Business Model and Lean Canvas and all. He's a very famous consultant for startups there. So today we are going to talk about that. So let us first try to understand what this business model means. and then we can move ahead and understand how we are going to go about.
This is the story of Beth, her friend Carl, and an idea they believed could become a great business. It's the story of how they succeeded. And if you're an entrepreneur or anyone with a great idea, it could easily be your story too. But let's begin at the beginning. See, even if you have a great idea, success is far from assured. That's because for every great idea that has shaped our world, there are thousands of seemingly great ideas that have flopped. In order to succeed, a great business idea needs a great business model, and they're not the same thing. Once your idea meets the world, it will meet customers. If they don't care about the problem your idea solves for them, it's game over. Even if customers love your value proposition, you can fail if your business model is not scalable and financially sustainable. You'll need to find reliable channels to reach and acquire your customers. You'll need to build an infrastructure that won't collapse as your business begins to grow. Failing to do just one of these things can mean death to your business, however great your idea is. That's why the first work is to search for the right business model, to map this world of challenges so it can be tamed and organized, allowing you to explore it, manage it, and plan for it. What if there was a tool that could help you with this challenge, simply and visually? A tool that makes it easier to stress test your ideas, track your progress, and avoid breaking the bank along the way. What if it was possible to design and test business models in a way that gives your idea a better shot at rising to the level of the great businesses that are shaping our world? It is, and though the journey for these guys, and for you, won't be a walk in the park, all you'll need is your creativity, willingness to work, and passion for your idea. We'll give you the rest.
So even if your idea is great and all, but you will need a business model to succeed. Okay, and this business model is today in the modern world. This business model is based on a new philosophy of creating new companies and new startups, which is called the lean approach. Now there are different approaches have been there for creating new products or new companies, and researchers and entrepreneurs have tried these approaches. But if you look at the present scenario, the lean approach is the best approach to create value and lean approach. What is the difference between other approaches? The traditional approach, which has been like waterfall approach and other approaches, even agile methodology. Some of you who know about IT industry may know that there is a system called agile methodology on which they develop new products and all. So there are short sprints which are organized. A sprint mean that everyone comes together and work for short period of time, and then they check whether what they check it with the customer or check it with the people who are going to use it, and take feedback, and then again come and make changes to it. Now, lean methodology basically shortens this time frame. It says that instead of you assuming things, try to create something very basic thing, go to the market, go to your customers and seek their feedback, whether they are liking it, how they are using it, and understand what are the shortcomings in your product or service, and then come back and quickly make the changes, and then again go back. So, and use short cycles with minimum resources. And this is an approach which is used by even the biggest of the companies today in the world. Even the companies like Google and Facebook and all top companies you can see, they all use this approach in which they do not invest big amounts of money in one idea. Okay, that's not the way it is done today. If you have a new idea, you make it as minimum as possible and quickly go to the market, quickly test it with the real customers. And you repeat this process again and again. So this process of repeating again and again is called basically the lean approach. And lean approach has been there which has really transformed the industry in a big way. Now, there are various ways in which you can do this. One way in which you can understand this business canvas is to basically, there is a canvas, I would say. Let me just show you this canvas. Okay. Can all of you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So here, this is a lean canvas. It is basically a one-page snapshot, a one-page snapshot of your whole business idea with whatever you are thinking. Okay. So this is a canvas in which you put down all your things in a systematic manner. And as you can see, it has 9 blocks. It's called 9 blocks of a business lean canvas. So this was created by one, like I told you, Ash Maurya, and he has written a book on this, and he has been a consultant for a lot of startups in the world. Now, what it says that you can divide your whole business idea into these 9 elements, 9 blocks. And he says that you can go one by one to fill this. And you remember that we have already done some of these things. Like we have talked about the customer segments. In the previous, when you were discussing, we were discussing about the customer segment. Who are the customers? Who are the consumers? Okay. So we discussed about this part. Okay. So you have to list your target customers and users who are going to be your users. So use this segment to list them down, 1, 2, and 3. But it says the idea is that because every customer segment will have different kind of problem and may need different kind of solution. So maybe your product is providing all different kinds of solution, but maybe the marketing will be different for different customer segments and all. So create one canvas for one customer segment only, one segment, for one segment. And then note down the early adopters, that who will be the people who are going to be your early adopters, who will be who can quickly take up your solutions, whom you are going to target first among all your people who can be your customers. Then list down the problems. Okay. Now your product or service or your business idea may be solving a lot of problems. But like I said in the previous classes, that focus on 1, 2 top problems. Okay, list down all the top problems here in this number 2. Okay. And then existing alternatives also. How people are solving, what are the top existing alternatives? So these are basically your competitors right now at this stage. This is the first stage. The third is that, okay, you are basically solving a problem, but how you are going to make money, how you are going to charge people, okay, for what you are going to charge. So list your revenue source. Say, for example, I am going to create a website which will be available for subscription. So my subscription fees will be my revenue stream number 1. Okay. And I will also provide consultancy. So that may be my revenue stream number 2. Okay. So list down all your revenue streams, how you are going to make money, from where, how the money will come into your business. Then you also have to understand, fourth is basically this solution. What exactly is your solution? Okay, so I would not say that you don't have to fixate yourself at solutions. Solutions can change a bit. In the previous sessions, you have done that value canvas, value proposition canvas. In that, you have talked about what your solution will do, basically. So that you can put here. And you're unique. Why you are unique? Why there is something which others don't have? Why what you are providing? Now here you can think of the end benefit. For what is the end benefit for the customer? Okay, list down that here. And then how will you reach your customers? Now there are two ways of understanding channels here. Channels. One is the marketing channel. How are you going to convey or communicate with your customers? So right now you don't have to note the content of the marketing. No, only the channel. Say for example, I am going to target students, say living in Aligarh, or that is my customer segment. So the best way, one of the best way to reach those people, students, is through Facebook. So I say that, okay, Facebook, most of the students who are living around Aligarh, they are present on Facebook. So Facebook becomes my channel for reaching them. That is the marketing channel. The other channel can be the distribution channel. If, say, for example, I am selling a pen. Now I cannot, what is my channel of selling this pen? So one is that I can sell this pen through my website. Okay, that is my distribution channel. Or say, for example, I can create a shop in Amir Nisha. That is my second distribution channel or whatever. So think about channel from that perspective, marketing channel and distribution channel. Then how will I know that whether I have succeeded or I have failed, or whether I am on the right track or whether I am on the wrong track? I can only do that if I measure something. Okay, जब मुझे जैसे marks हैं, marks basically tells you that whether you have really studied something or not. So कोई ना कोई एक end product होता है, एक end metric होती है that you have to select for your business. Say in the first phase, I have developed an app. So my metric will be that in the first phase, I just want people to download my app, okay, and start using my app. So my metric will be the number of downloads per week, say for example, or per day. That will be my number one number which I'm going to track. So that is basically the key metric, the seventh here. Okay. And there can be multiple matrices, like number of shares people have referrals, how many people, what kind of rating people have given me in the initial phase. Or if, say, for example, if I am selling a pen, there maybe how much money I have, number of pens sold per day, or how much money I have made. So total revenue earned at the end of the week. That is my metric. So for every business, the metric will be slightly different. So understand that how will you measure success or failure of your business? That is metric. And then comes the cost structure, 8th number. How to organize your business, what all spending you have to do, where you have to spend the money, cost kya hai. And this cost can be, you can divide it into 3 costs basically. One is the startup cost, the third is the, second is the fixed cost, and the fourth is the variable cost. We divide it like this. Startup costs are those costs which are spent before basically selling starts taking place. जो basic setup की cost है, say for example the legal fees or setup of, like someone mentioned about the establishing the company and all these things. So these are all startup costs, or the cost of basically doing some experimentation. So that is basically a startup cost. Fixed costs are those costs which you have to spend once, but they continue with you. Say, for example, you have to buy a machine and it is directly related to your product. Okay. But you spend it once. It is a fixed cost. Then third is basically fixed costs are not dependent on the number of units you are selling. Okay. Now, say for example, the machine is there, and it doesn't matter whether I am using machine for creating 10 products or 100 products in a day. The same machine. Usually the cost is because operating, I have to take an operator. If salaries are basically fixed cost, but sales commission is a variable cost. So every commission will depend on the extra units which the person is selling. Variable cost is basically like the raw material which is used in, which is basically dependent on the number of units you are producing or number of things you are doing. So that is basically the three kinds of cost. We will talk about cost in bit detail when we go into other sections. But this is basically a model in which you can you have to अपने business को आपको इस model के अंदर fit करना है. And the moment you start doing it, what happens is that there is a structure which gets formed, and you can make a judgment that where I need to work more, which is not clear. This aspect of my business is not clear. Okay, and you can take feedback also from people who can give you now a very pinpointed feedback. Okay, आपके channels में you have to think of more channels, say for example, or the people, say for example, you are targeting a customer segment, say older people, and the channel you have mentioned is basically Facebook. Now in India, some people are using it, but mostly if you talk about Aligarh and setting into tier 2 cities, not many old people are using Facebook. Okay, not many are using. Some are using, but so maybe you can add more channels to it. Maybe you can add, say, another channel where you can find more old people or that. So think about from that perspective. And finally, the 9 number is basically the unfair advantage. An unfair advantage is something which cannot be easily copied by the competitors. Okay, do you have something which is so unique that it cannot be copied by the competitors? Okay, so you can think about all of these things. So what I will do, I will let me show you a small video, and all of this you can do in 20 minutes. The Ash Maurya says that your first draft of lean canvas should be prepared in 20 minutes. Okay, and once you have done that, you can keep on changing the lean canvas. You can keep on building and refining your business model. That is the idea behind lean canvas. So we will look at this video of Ash Maurya, which is basically a 20-minute video. And I would request all of you, I'm playing that in the class here right now. So I would request all of you to very carefully watch this 20-minute video. And then we will end the class by giving you this task where you will organize yourself in your practice venture group and you will complete your lean canvas, okay, based on this video. And there are some, you can see there are some lot of examples are there. Example of Airbnb, example of Facebook, example of Starbucks. So you can all download these examples from your LearnWise. So let us look at this video first.
Hi, this is Ash with Spark 59. Today I'm going to show you how to create your initial business model canvas in 20 minutes. You might be wondering why just 20 minutes? After all, a business model is a pretty complicated and critical thing to get right. Surely you should spend a lot more time on this. But here's the thing, the perfect plan is a myth. Studies have shown that most successful companies report having drastically changed their original plans along the way. Companies like Groupon, PayPal, Flickr are all examples of this. What really separates successful products from those that don't make it isn't necessarily starting with a perfect plan, but finding a plan that works before running out of resources. The way you do that isn't through rhetorical reasoning on a whiteboard in pursuit of that perfect plan, but rather through empirical testing, getting outside the building and stress testing, and then refining your plan. Time is the scarcest resource in a startup, which is why it is important to time box your initial canvas so you don't fall into the analysis paralysis trap. I find that 20 minutes is enough time for the first pass. Perfection is not the goal here. but rather the goal is to sketch or baseline a snapshot of your current thinking. With that out of the way, let's get started. If you haven't done this already, head on over to leancanvas.com and click the Create Your Canvas button. It should ideally have its own canvas. This is sometimes hard to see, so it might help to consider an example. This is an actual product I built in my last company. Cloudflare was a service that helped people share lots of photos and videos easily with each other. The really broad category here was anyone that shares lots of photos and videos. While I would have loved to service that market, it's not specific enough. When you try to market to everyone, especially as a startup, you end up marketing to no one. Down below, you'll see a number of more specific and possible customer segments that I then created. Sometimes the split won't be perfect. For instance, photographers, videographers, and graphic designers may share enough common attributes to be lumped together as a creative segment. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. The most important thing, though, is not going too broad, like using the anyone that shares lots of photos and videos, or going too narrow, where you shrink the market size too much.
I'm going to pause here and just explain this again. Many a times I see this problem in a lot of lean canvases of students, that anyone who is having this problem or anyone who is like this, all the world is my customer segment. This kind of approach is really, really very, it's not worthy to pursue, because, you can get really lost in this. So if you are not targeting it to a particular people, you are not targeting at all. So it will get lost because nobody cares about that. So here is an example. What he says that you can get more specific, you can get very, very specific, obviously, but you should at least not start too broad. So try to narrow it down at least to a level. Okay, so get more specific here and here. So here is a service which is basically a photo and video sharing service, an example which he's taking of Cloudflare. And he's saying that list down the customer segments which you are customer list. So he has listed down some specific segments, people who need to share videos and photographs, like photographers, videographers, graphic designers, architects, parents of children, and doctors and consumers also. And so that's a long list. So then let's see.
The next step is to pick your strongest customer segment for your canvas. This might be one you most want to service, know the most about, or have the strongest channel to reach. Whatever your reasons, start with a single customer segment and use that as the name of your canvas. For the Cloudflare product, I decided to use parents as my first customer segment, mostly because I had recently become a parent around that time frame and observed several problems that I was motivated to explore. After doing this, you should then see the canvas screen. You can simply click in any of the boxes to start typing. The blue numbers indicate a suggested order for traversing the canvas. This order is only a recommendation. Even I'm going to deviate from it slightly in this video based on a newer flow I have been more recently using. For the rest of the video, I'm going to walk the canvas and show you how to fill each section using the Cloudflare product as a concrete example you can reference. It is most effective to complete your canvas as I cover each section while the content is still fresh in your mind. So I'll have you pause the video after each section before moving on. So my preferred flow these days is to complete the canvas in a set of blocks. The first block that I like to tackle is the problem customer segment quadrant. So much of your business model is dependent on the proper identification of customers and their problems that a solid footing here creates a very strong foundation for the rest of your canvas. You've already identified your main customer segment from earlier, which goes in the customer segment box. It's common to have multiple participants or user roles in your business model. I would next go ahead and list all of them out here, but you should distinguish between customers and users when you do so. That distinction is pretty simple. Customers pay you and your users do not. For most products, that distinction is also pretty straightforward. In a software as a service product, for instance, you attract leads or users and aim to convert some or all of them into paying customers. In a multi-sided business, like the one driven by advertising, for example, Google search, you have users who create value through participation that you then monetize through ads. Here, the advertisers are your customers and the users are those that are doing searches. For these types of products, I recommend keeping both users and customers on a single canvas. Marketplace businesses, however, are a lot more complicated. Here you often have two or more parties that simultaneously work to create value. Classic examples are eBay, Airbnb, where you need both buyers and sellers to make the business work. Additionally, each party often has a different incentive, channel, and other elements of the canvas that you also need to understand. So for these types of businesses, I recommend creating a separate canvas for each party involved. As a slight aside, there is a hashtag feature in the Lean Canvas tool that lets you visually group different customer segments on the same canvas. In the screenshot above, you'll notice different colors for buyers and sellers on the canvas based on the hashtags that are reused in multiple sections.
So this is also one of the questions which I get quite often, that if you have basically a platform kind of business where like a Airbnb, where the buyers are also coming and sellers are also coming, and you are an intermediary or you are an aggregator or something like that. So for that, you can create a lean canvas where you can differentiate, because a problem for buyer will be different and seller will be different. Channel for reaching buyer will be different and seller will be different. So you can color code these if you are creating a single lean canvas. So, and after this video, you can see in the in the LearnWise, there are examples of Airbnb and Facebook, where their distinction is there. Okay, so you can see those examples, and there is also a simple example of Starbucks, which is basically have a single customer segment, and they have taken that example. So you have all the examples which you can have a look at after this video. Okay, so first, what he's trying to say is first try to basically solve the customer segment and problem together. Okay, try to fill these two blocks together.
This is a nice feature that lets you quickly keep all your customer segments on a single canvas and toggle them on and off. But if you're more comfortable creating separate canvases, do that instead. Now it's time to get even more specific with your customer segments and further narrow them down into early adopters. Early adopters are those people that need your product the most, and the early success of your business model is going to be highly dependent on how well you can define and qualify your early adopters. While we all would like to build a product like Facebook that is used by practically everyone on the planet, even Facebook started with a very specific early adopter, which happened to be a college student, and not just any college student, but a college student on the Harvard campus. Here's a customer segment box for the Cloudflare product. I've listed parents as the primary customer and their family and friends as viewers. Down below, I further qualified my early adopters to be parents with younger kids because I felt that they would need my product more than parents with older kids. Pause the video here and complete your customer segment box before moving on. With your customer segments and early adopters defined, we'll now move on to the problem box. Outline the top 3 problems your product addresses for this early adopter. You can have less than 3 problems, but try not to list more than 3. A helpful technique for uncovering good problems at this stage is using a 5 whys. You start with a customer problem, which is usually a surface problem or symptom. You then ask yourself why this is a problem, and do this 5 times, each time refining the list of problems until you have a list of deeper problems that you can put on your canvas. Here's an example of this technique applied to the Cloudflare product. Another useful technique is using the job to be done concept popularized by Clayton Christensen. The basic idea here is that customers hire your products to get a job done. This is often something they have already been trying to do, but probably unsuccessfully. Once you correctly identify that job, you're in a much better position to identify underlying problems and eventually define a solution for that. This idea also ties nicely into the next quadrant, where you ask yourself how your early adopters solve these problems today. Here, you want to be able to describe your customer's current reality. What existing solutions or alternatives are they using today to get the job done? Doing nothing, by the way, is also an alternative. As we'll see shortly, this information will be invaluable in properly positioning and pricing your product. Here is my filled out problem box for the Cloudflare product. You'll see a list of 3 top problems I picked from the earlier 5 whys analysis, along with a list of possible existing alternatives parents use for photo and video sharing. Pause the video here and complete your problem box before moving on. The next set of blocks I like to tackle is the combination of your solution, your unique value proposition, and revenue streams. These three things taken together help to define your offer or minimum viable product, which I'll define here in a second. Solution box is the one we entrepreneurs are most in love with because we love to build cool stuff. But your solution isn't usually what's riskiest on the canvas. Instead of falling in love with your solution, embrace the concept of a minimum viable product. The minimum viable product is the smallest solution you can build that still delivers customer value. That is, it still solves a specific problem and ideally also captures some of that value, which is just a fancy way of saying it gets you paid. Until you gain a deep understanding of your customers and their problems, you cannot really define the right solution. That said, I'm sure you have an inkling of what you'd like to build anyway, so let's list those, but still constrain them around the top 3 problems you listed earlier. So for each problems that you listed earlier, briefly outline how you envision solving them using your solution. Here is my filled out solution box for the Cloudflare product. I envision solving these problems with software and list the top 3 features I would need to include in my minimum viable product. Again, pause the video here and complete your solution box before moving on. Next, we turn to the unique value proposition. Not only is this one of the hardest things to get right, but it's also the most critical, at least initially. When you first introduce a product, the initial battle is all about getting noticed by customers. It's getting a chance to have a meaningful dialogue with a prospect. You get this chance by making a compelling offer or promise represented by your unique value proposition. The good news is that, like everything else on your canvas, your unique value proposition is also a guess or hypothesis. You'll have lots of opportunity to test and refine it later. Here are some techniques for getting started. Your unique value proposition is derived from the intersection of your problem and your solution. So craft your unique value proposition around your number 1 problem. And instead of just thinking in terms of top features and benefits, think in terms of your finished story benefit. Your finished story benefit is the value a customer derives after using your product. So if you have a job board service, for instance, your unique value proposition isn't the cool resume building feature you have, but rather the promise of helping job seekers find their dream job. Next, avoid the use of empty words like simple, fast, or easy. Yes, I know Apple uses these all the time, but you are not Apple. They can get away with it because they have built a reputation and brand around simplicity. You haven't and need to be a lot more specific with your unique value proposition. Here's a formula by way of Dane Maxwell for creating a compelling unique value proposition that uses 3 fragments. The first is the end result the customer wants, which is like the finished story benefit. The next is constraining that with a specific period of time when they would see these results. Then finally, you want to address any objections they might have.
Now, I would like to pause here a bit, and because you have already done this exercise of understanding the value proposition canvas. And from that exercise, I think now it's time to convert that into a headline, which is a basically value proposition headline. You can call it a unique value proposition, which will differentiate you from others. And why would people come to you than to go to their competitors? So that's what this formula is really very helpful, where you focus on the end result the customer really wants. Okay, once you have already understood that what are the pain and pain relievers and gain creators and how you are going to solve them, and basically add a specific time period that how you are going to get it or address the objections. Sometimes you will not get answers to all of these, but at least if you get the answer to the first one, that end result the customer wants, you are on the right track to framing your good value proposition, good unique value proposition. So I will get a lot of questions on this unique value proposition, and many times I feel that that is not appropriate when people fill in that in the lean canvas. So that is it's a very important tip here that to be, here are some examples also given at the end.
The second and third items in the formula are great if you can fit them into your unique value proposition without sounding overly salesy. Otherwise, leave them out. Down below are several examples of unique value propositions that use a finished story benefit with some or all of these elements. And finally, it's a good exercise to work on your high concept pitch. The high concept pitch is something Hollywood producers use all the time to distill the script of a new movie they are pitching into a memorable soundbite. So for instance, instead of describing the movie Aliens, they might just say it's like the movie Jaws, only in space. You can do the same thing with products. For example, when YouTube first launched, the founders were describing it as Flickr for videos. It's important to recognize that the high concept pitch is not a unique value proposition. It's not something you'd put on your landing page, but it is valuable nonetheless. It's valuable for helping spreading the meme of your product by word of mouth. Here is my filled out unique value proposition for the Cloudfire product. You'll see a couple of unique value propositions here, along with a simple high level concept. Pause the video here and complete your unique value proposition box before continuing on. Next, we're going to cover your revenue streams or pricing box. At first glance, this might seem a little out of place since we have mostly been considering aspects around your solution. But pricing is very much part of your solution. It's very much part of your product. I often use an example to illustrate this. Imagine you have 2 bottles of water in front of you. One is priced at $1 and the other at $3. Which one do you think is better? Even though both bottles would probably be indistinguishable in a blind taste test, here price alone has the power to define the product in your mind. The next question, which bottled water would you pick? Not only is price a part of your product, but it also determines the customers you attract. In the case of bottled water, we know markets exist at both price points, but the customers who routinely buy $3 bottled water are different from those that would prefer the $1 bottle. Pricing is often considered more art than science and can seem pretty daunting, but there are some simple techniques for getting you started. I often see entrepreneurs doing cost-based pricing versus value-based pricing, which is a mistake. Remember, customers hire your product to get a job done. When they view your product, they naturally compare it against their existing alternatives, not what it costs you to deliver your solution. These alternatives serve as price anchors in your customers' minds. That is why it is so important to understand these existing alternatives and then position your solution against them. I'm also a big proponent of keeping your pricing as simple as possible, at least at the beginning. Resist the urge to create multiple pricing plans at this point. Rather, pick a price aimed at your early adopters and keep their existing alternatives in mind. In the case of a multi-sided business model, even though you aren't directly charging your users, you are still building an asset. The challenge with these business models is that this asset isn't worth anything until you pass a certain threshold or tipping point. Find out what that tipping point is and get some ballpark numbers on the value of that asset by looking at comparable advertising rates and or acquisitions, depending on the type of business you are building. Here's my filled out revenue streams box for the Cloudfire product. I use my existing alternatives as anchors, which range from $0 with Facebook all the way to $99 for the Apple Mobile Me service. I use these alternatives to come up with my starting price of $49 a year. Pause the video here and complete your revenue stream box before moving on. Next, we're going to cover channels or your path to customers. Your channels or path to customers are one of the more riskier items on your canvas. You might be able to identify a problem worth solving, build out a solution, and even get a small group of customers to derive value from it. But if you can't get your product in front of enough customers, none of that might matter. Channels aren't something to defer to later, but rather something you should start building and testing from day one. The good news is that you don't need to build scalable channels from day one. It's okay to start with a handful of outbound channels to jumpstart your learning first. Here are some possible outbound channel suggestions that might help. At the same time, take a stab at identifying where your scalable channels might come from. These typically take time to build, so it helps to think about them now versus later. Here's a list of some possible scalable channels that you might be able to employ later on. Now here's my filled out channels box for the Cloudfire product. You'll find a combination of outbound and inbound channels listed here. Pause the video here and complete your channels box before moving on.
So I think channels is pretty much clear because I already explained this channels, and it's a very important part of a lean canvas. And I think every idea will have a different set of channels, and every business proposition will have a different channels. So please take note of this very carefully, and think it both in terms of marketing as well as distribution.
Now we're going to move on to how you measure success using key metrics. Key metrics represent the key numbers that tell you how your business is doing. A startup is inherently chaotic, but at any given point in time, there are only a few key actions or metrics that matter. These will change as your product moves through various stages, but at this point in time, I'd like you to identify two key metrics. The first is identifying the key customer action that drives value in your product. In other words, ask yourself, what key activity would you use to measure your value proposition? So for example, if you were building a blogging platform, publishing a blog post would be the key activity. For Twitter, posting a tweet is a key activity. The second key metric is stating your success metric for your product. What would you need to achieve to make this product worthwhile? It could be a revenue target, like building a $10 million business or a $100 million business. It could be having some impact on the world, or it could be something else altogether. Here is my filled out key metrics box for the Cloudflare product. My key activity is based around sharing. If a parent doesn't routinely share their photos and videos with others, chances are they will lose interest and not keep paying for the product. My success metric for Cloudflare was building a $5 million business, which roughly translated to acquiring 100,000 paying customers. Pause the video here and complete your key metrics box before moving on. We're at the home stretch now. After getting hit with a killer idea and convincing yourself it's worth pursuing, the next thing that should be keeping you up at night is how you build enough runway for your product. We'll use this section to do some ballpark sizing of your business model and estimate scope and feasibility of implementing it. Start by outlining your fixed and variable costs, things like people, servers, and other resources you will need to implement this business model. It's impossible to be totally accurate at this stage because a lot of it will change with time. It does help to consider a shorter horizon, like a break-even point, and use your pricing and cost structure to come up with the number of customers you would need to break even. And then go all the way. Calculate how many customers you would need to realize your metric for success from earlier.
Here, I would say that you've already done a back of the envelope calculation. So it will give you certain idea that what you have, you can put it in the cost structure. So what are your major cost heads? Say, for example, if you are developing an app, maybe, so server cost will be, obviously, if you are hosting it on a server, that will be more, or your salaries for maintaining that app or developing that app will be like one, and similarly there can be others. And if you are developing a shop, say for example, so the rent may be one, or the product development itself, maybe manufacturing of that product will be something other. So all of these will be the cost heads you have to take into account.
Here is my filled out cost structure box for the Cloudflare product. Pause the video here and complete your cost structure box and do a similar sizing estimate. And now the final box, the unfair advantage. Unfair advantage is also sometimes called competitive advantage or barriers to entry on a business plan. It essentially describes how you will defend against competitive attacks. Most first-time entrepreneurs don't completely understand what constitutes an unfair advantage and often list things that aren't. One of the most commonly cited unfair advantage is being first to market. Take a look at these companies. None of them were first movers in their markets, but fast followers. One could actually argue that being first to market can be a disadvantage because the burden of learning and marketing a new product is all on the first mover. Here are other things commonly cited on business plans. All of these things, while important, don't create a sustainable unfair advantage on their own. So what is a real unfair advantage? I subscribe to a simple definition put forward by Jason Cohen, who is currently the founder of WP Engine and also writes the popular A Smart Bear blog. His definition is that a real unfair advantage is something that cannot be easily copied or bought. So let's list out some examples of some real unfair advantages. Bad news is that you probably didn't see an unfair advantage that applies to you today. The good news is that that's okay. Even Facebook didn't really have an unfair advantage when they started. They were number 11 or 12 in building a social network, but they still managed to build the largest social network on the planet, which has now become their unfair advantage. The more important thing is to have an unfair advantage story. Unlike the other boxes on the canvas, the unfair advantage is unfortunately not one you decide to test one day. If and when you start getting some traction with your product, your unfair advantage will be tested by competition and copycats. You may also not have a readily identifiable unfair advantage today. Rather than listing something weak and clearly not an unfair advantage, leave this section blank. Some unfair advantages are revealed over time, like in the case of Zappos. Having a blank box staring back at you also serves as a constant reminder to keep looking for one. Here is my filled out unfair advantage box for the Cloudflare product. Since it's targeted at a very specific and emotional niche, I envision building differentiation over time by fostering a strong sense of community among my customers. Pause the video here and complete your unfair advantage box. So there you have it. If you followed along, you should have captured your first business model. Congratulations. Next time, I'll cover how to bulletproof this business model from here and show you how to start the process of stress testing your plan A. Until then, take care.
It's a very interesting video. In fact, I would suggest all of you to watch this video again with your team members and then pause it like it is said and just complete the business model canvas for yours. So there is this activity where you have to document all of this in your business model canvas. And there are some very interesting examples also given for you to basically look at how some people have developed their business lean canvas. There is this example of Airbnb. There is this example of Facebook. So you can see that there is this lean canvas. So study it yourself. So I am going to stop here now. And what I'm going to do, we are going to create an assignment for you for Saturday. So by Saturday, say afternoon, you have to submit and create this lean canvas for your startup idea, which is your practice venture. And once you do that, you are already on the way to complete your milestone 2, which is going to be due in the next week. Okay. So with this, I'm going to end today's session. And I would request all of you to organize yourself on Zoom or elsewhere. So you can also see that there is this template is also given. So you can download the template and make changes to this template of lean canvas. Okay. So if you look at it, so on this sketch your lean canvas here, this is the third one. Okay. On the last session 4, this sketch assumptions. Oh, sorry. On session 2, yes, this lean canvas template is given. So you download this lean canvas template, and from here there is a link which is there to download it, and from there and you can start editing it according to your idea. Okay, so if there are any doubts, if there are any questions regarding any of this, please you can ask.
So I have a query.
Yes.
The unfair advantage column, is that an extension of the UVP?
No, actually. Unique value proposition is something which the customer gets at the end. Okay. So it is from the perspective of the customer. So what is the exact elation or what is the benefit which the customer is getting at the end after using your product or service? So that is unique. If that is unique, then it is unique value proposition. If it is not unique, it is simply a value proposition which may be similar to other value propositions of competitors. But once you make it unique, so it becomes a unique value proposition. That is one thing. For this unfair advantage is slightly different. Unfair advantage is something which basically guards you against the competitor. So if, say, for example, your unique value proposition is X and the customer is, the other competitors over a period of time are able to copy you. So then it becomes their unique value proposition as well. However, if there is something which is guarding you from customers copying you or customers basically taking away your unique position, taking away your customers, if there is something then it is called unfair advantage, which basically it's called moat also, M-O-A-T, moat also. You must have heard about this term. It was used in especially when they were, in earlier days, there always used to be a trench which was developed just outside the forts, and it was filled with water mostly. Okay, you go to Lal Qila and you go to any of these forts, you will find that there are moats. So moats are which basically discourages a competition to get into it. So moats are like unfair advantage. Okay, so it may be, say for example, you have developed you have a patent. You are a scientist and you have developed a patent for a medicine. So that is basically a moat. Nobody else can develop that. So that is an unfair advantage. Similarly, sometimes a very strong community is also an advantage. For example, you are a celebrity chef. You are basically a person who likes to basically cook a lot, and you have a Facebook following and you have a YouTube channel. There are already people who are there who are watching you, who know that you are an expert. And then you say, for example, you launch a brand, a food brand, say for example, a masala brand or certain things, or you launch a cookery show or a paid classes, online classes for cookery online classes. Now you already have an unfair advantage because of your strong community. You have, say, so and so thousands of followers, lakhs of followers are there. So you are basically an unfair advantage. So the competition does not have it. If someone decides to do it, they will have to build a community. So that is the difference between unfair advantage and unique value proposition.
Thank you, sir.
So any other question? Anything related to this lean canvas? All right then. Most of you are sleeping, I guess. So anyway, you will have to wake up once you get this task to be done. A task has to be done, and I've already shared some of the links for you to study on your WhatsApp group also, and you have to complete your lean canvas by Saturday.
Sir, it will do. We can group or individually, sir.
You are not audible.
Sir, we can complete the lean canvas with our previous group or individual.
With previous group, obviously. This is a group assignment. Practice venture.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir, are you there? Anything which is to be added?
Sir, I believe you have very well make them understand the importance of lean canvas. It's a snapshot for what you are trying to do and what that things can be done and how better place you are for your business. And as far as my understanding goes, sir, today businesses always are going for dashboards concept. Now everything should be in one screen, so that managers can take decisions based on everything that can be possible should be shared on the screen. And these dashboards are actually becoming a reality today. And this lean canvas is actually a dashboard of their practice venture. They will look into this as a one single concept, and where they can relate each and everything in a single piece of paper. It's a very important concept, and whosoever is interested in this, they should definitely go ahead with that.
True. All the venture capitalists are also looking at lean canvas nowadays. All right, so let us call it a day, and I hope that you organize yourself in your PVs and complete this activity. All right.